Good afternoon and welcome to the Living Well radio program. You can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage as well as KJLP 88.9 in Palmer. You can also catch us online at katb.org. Once again, my name is Cammie and I'm always joined by my lovely co-host Betty. Say hi to everybody over there, Betty.
Hi, everybody.
She's over there being rebellious, not wanting to wear her headphones in the studio. Betty, what is with that? We need to work on that.
That rebellious nature?
Yes.
I've been trying for many years to work on that.
You know, I can walk you through a prayer for that if you want.
I might need a lot of it.
Somebody out there might be wondering what that new voice is, and we are so excited to have in the studio with us today our guest, Renee Duncan. Say hi to everybody, Renee.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're awake.
Yes. Well, it's afternoon time. I
Yes.
hope they are, huh?
You know what? I had a hard time waking up this morning. I'm tired today.
Yeah.
Well, it tends to do that to us when it gets darker out.
I'm tired, and I sent Cammie a text earlier today, and I said, I'm so glad we're doing radio and not TV.
Well, we're going to liven things up here in the Living Well radio program. So once again, we are joined here today by Renee Duncan. She is the Director of Children's Ministry with the Baxter Road Bible Church and has currently fulfilling that role, but has fulfilled a variety of roles in ministries, it sounds like. So we're excited to kind of dig in behind the scenes and just see what we can learn from you today, Renee, and just get enlightened by kind of the story behind your ministry and how you serve there at the Baxter Road Bible Church. So thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Do you want to go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself for those that might be listening that don't know who you are? Give us the rundown, the 411.
The 411 may be a little difficult with me because my hands are in a lot of different things and have been for many, many years. But basically, I've lived in the state of Alaska for 35 years and have done ministry around the state in different capacities and served alongside my husband in a church down on the Kenai Peninsula, Healy, and also in Fairbanks. And then I do international ministry and have been doing all types of ministry since I was 8 years old.
Wow. So what were you doing at 8 years old? What was that first ministry you were involved in?
I was assisting in the children's church and the primary church with teaching alongside of my mother.
Oh, really?
So, yes, she had us learn how to do object lessons and little miniature sermons for the kids. We worked with puppets and anything else that she helped us learn how to do. And then that led us into furthermore opportunities. And about 13, I was teaching Sunday school. 18, I was on the mission field. So it keeps you pretty busy.
Where was your first mission trip?
It was in Scotland. And the funny thing about that was in 7th grade, I remember sitting in the classroom at school, and I thought to myself, I never want to go to Alaska. And at the same time, I heard the Lord speak to my heart and say, you're going to Scotland. Who do you think won out? He did, completely. I went to Scotland, and I've come to Alaska. But, yes, it all came together in a supernatural way of being able to fulfill that in the Lord.
Who did you go with on your mission trip?
There's a group called Teen Missions International. It's a non-denominational gathering that they will do physical as well as evangelism and several different types of things. And that year, what had happened was January 1st, we always had an evening service to welcome in the new year at our church. And I was praying at the midnight hour, and I just said, Lord, wherever you want me to go, whatever you want me to do, I will do that. So I'm committing to you on that. Within the week, I got contacted by a bank telling me I had $700 that I didn't know I had. Then somebody in the church stopped me at my workplace and said, the Lord told me to give you this brand new Thompson Chain Reference Bible, which it was brand new back then, not so much now, and very expensive. And my Bible that morning had fallen out of the car and gotten destroyed in water and everything. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about what I told the Lord just 2 days before, and I thought, oh, you know what? My sister had received this notice from this company years ago, and she had been told no, she couldn't go. So I just went to my mom and I said, if we happen to get this material again, can I have permission to pursue it? And she says, as long as Pastor authorizes it, you can. The next day it arrived in the mail. And I'm flipping through it, and I see there's 2 things for Scotland. One is a workforce, and the other is evangelism. Well, my heart is evangelism. definitely not workforce. And so I went to my pastor, and I thought, oh, he's not going to support me if I say evangelism, because that's not really working. That's a piece of cake for me. And so he goes, well, what are you going to be doing when you go over there? And I said, well, I'm signing up for the workforce. And he goes, then you can't go. And my heart just dropped, and I looked at him and I go, why? And he says, because you belong evangelizing. And I go, oh, well then, okay, no problem. And within just a couple of months, everything perfectly fell into alignment, and I ended up being over there for 2 solid months. And that was the start of my ministry overseas.
I love when God does things like that.
Oh, it's awesome.
I mean, he just lays it out in front of you and takes care of everything.
Well, it builds up your faith and encourages you when you have other opportunities and situations that you're kind of questioning whether you should or you shouldn't. You can think back and remember the stones of remembrance.
So how many mission trips have you had since then?
That's a hard one to answer. I don't really know. I've been in probably close to 30 countries. And most likely, I really can't answer that. I don't know. There's been too many to really think about.
Is there one that just stands out in your mind that you'd like to talk about?
I think there's so many. One that was very impactful to me, though, happened back in 99 or 2000. And the Lord told me on like May 31st, you're to resign from your job tomorrow morning. And I'm like going, God, you got to be kidding me. I can't just up and resign from my job. What am I supposed to do? And I argued with him, which I know nobody else ever does. I'm the only one that does this.
You're right.
But I just argued with him for a couple hours, honestly. Finally, I said, okay, all right, I'll write a resignation. And I went to work the next morning. As I was writing the resignation, I noticed there was a note on my desk. So I looked it up, and it was a note from a friend saying, call me ASP. So I gave her a ring up, and she says, the person that was supposed to go with me to Africa, we cannot track her down. We have to have a confirmation today. Can you replace her? And without even thinking, I said, yes, of course.
Whoa.
And she says, okay, well, then we leave in 1 month. And I'm like, or I guess it would have been a month and a half. And I said, okay. So I hung up the phone, and then everything rushed in, and I'm thinking, oh, my goodness. I haven't even talked to my husband about this. But the interesting thing about it is a lot of the ministries that I do overseas, the Lord starts whispering to my heart long in advance and brings up situations that always is pointing to it. And Africa was one of those places I never had a desire to go. I loved South America. That people group was just really high on my radar. And to me, everybody went to Africa. They didn't need me. There was enough going there. And the Lord spoke to me and started whispering. And every book that I would pick up, there'd be something about Africa. Every CD that I would purchase, there would be a song that had something to do with Africa or even the African language. I mean, it was just boom, 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 boom. And so by the time I got to that point of being asked, he had already been preparing. And if I had not been willing and answered yes to resignation of my job, I would not have been able to go, because it was a 3-week period of time where we'd be teaching in a Bible school as well and do other ministry. And through that yes process, I ended up having open doors into Royal Family, which is a whole nother level of stories that is just amazing.
Isn't that neat how God just starts to align all of those things to reconfirm you're going in the right direction?
We have to be willing, though, to see them and hear them and acknowledge them. I think there's a lot of times those things happen, but we become so focused on what our life is that we don't give time to ponder and think. I mean, look at Mary. When she was told by the angel that she is carrying the child of God, what did she respond, or how did she say it? I'm going to ponder these. That's what it said. Mary pondered these things in her heart. It means to think it over, dwell on it, conceive what the possibilities could be. And we tend to ignore that portion of our faith.
Would you, if you had the opportunity to speak to a group of teenagers that were contemplating what they were going to do with their life, some of them might feel called to the mission field and some might not. Would you recommend that they take a mission trip?
Yes, without hesitation. One of the things that we practiced in our ministry was we were always looking for ways to expose the youth to missions as well as adults. So we set up a type of financial gift, so to speak, that if they decided and signed up to go on a mission trip, that automatically they would receive this amount of money towards that trip to complete it and raise their finances. I believe that without fail, when we open ourselves up to participating, first of all, in the service to others, because that's what you're doing when you're doing ministry, you're either doing it on our soil or you're doing it on someone else's soil, that it brings a level of recognition of servanthood into your spirit and brings humility where pride often exists. The other thing is by bringing them and putting them into these situations where America is very sure about wanting to control everything. They want to control temperature, they want to control food, weight. I mean, everything is controlled in our society. And when you enter into the majority of other societies with a few differences, you're going to find that many of them don't have that same control factor in scheduling and expectations. They're very laid back. I mean, you've heard of siestas, you know, that type of a concept where they don't have the time limitations and guidelines that we do. And so it really challenges people to adjust. So whenever I take a teenager especially with me, I bring a Gumby award. And that is, some of you may know what a Gumby is, some may not, but it's a little moldable toy that I grew up with, and Betty, you probably are familiar with that. This little green guy, and I wrote a poem on one trip to Paris, and it's the Gumby Award is for the person who became most flexible during that specific time period, whether it was a day or a week or a couple of weeks, but people get very easily discombobulated when they're in a different culture because they're trying to fit that culture into American culture. And that's not what God did. That's not what Jesus did. He came to our culture and he revealed himself. And so we always have to think, how do I adjust to work within the boundaries and the confines of their culture and reveal Christ in that as I do? So it's a real killing off of yourself. And getting in that place of humility of just chilling out and doing what you can to help the situation. So it always expands people. It always, my daughters have been, my youngest daughter went with me to Mongolia when she was 11 years old, raised all of her money, $2,600 in under a month, and worked very, very hard over there, and has returned to Peru, as well as India and Sri Lanka. And then my other daughter has gone into Peru and many different countries doing other things. And it's hard for reentry, but it's one of the best experiences a young person or an adult can have to build into their life.
I would have to agree with that wholeheartedly. I know that Mikhaili, my daughter, had an opportunity to go to Guatemala just this last spring, and it has really just set the course for, at least her 5-year plan, that everything else is going to have to revolve around her ability to serve in missions. And so she's trying to align a career choice that would support that. I mean, it just was life-changing for her to go through that experience. And while that may even be a fairly commercialized, if you will, missions trip, it still set the tone for just God stirring that in her heart.
Sometimes people just have to have the opportunity to participate. And once they participate, it awakens something in their spirit that they didn't know was present, and it causes a hunger. One lady that went with me to Sri Lanka a number of years ago, who I've mentored for 15 years, she has gone twice now. And just the other day, she says, I've recognized that I've not been doing the evangelism in my day-to-day life, and I have to figure out how to bring that back. And that all came from those times, recognizing that was a heart and a call for her. And so it made me happy that she recognized that had kind of drifted off, but now it was important to come back.
Well, and I think what was interesting is, even though I didn't get to participate in that trip, it really stirred some thinking in my own heart to think, surely God didn't intend for a missions trip to be the only place where we can feel that way.
That's good.
And to figure out how to bring that into our daily life, and what is it that we need to, reevaluate, because surely that's not the intention, that that's the only way we can feel that close to the Lord is when we're on a missions trip. There has to be a way to make that possible right here today.
Well, part of it is that servant attitude. we're so trained to think about me first. I mean, even selfies.
True.
It's all about me. You know,
Yeah.
I've got to look good. I've got to do all these things. And when you do missions, like I said, either on our soil or on a foreign soil, what you're doing is you're having to kill off your own wants and desires so that it aligns with God's purposes in that moment. And we just get so busy, the busyness becomes the God rather than our heart to reveal God.
So let me ask you then, Renee, with that thought and with all of these years of experience that you have in serving in missions internationally, how have you brought that mindset back to your life here in the States as you do, you have a position that you fulfill, you have ministries that you serve in, you have a busy life. So what adjustments have you made having learned that when you go away to these trips?
Learning exactly how to be a servant leader, or
Well, just how to manage the busyness, but yet still have that heart to serve.
Well, our youth pastor makes very much fun of me because I'm one of those people who snap the picture of my Bible open with my coffee beside it, as this is one of my favorite things. I have made a distinct choice to schedule my morning so that I am doing the same thing every single morning. For me, that means getting out of the house. If I stayed in my home, it's harder for me to do my study, my Bible time, my time with God, because I get distracted by all those things around me. So a number of years ago, it's probably been 6-7 years ago, that I started making a choice to go to the local coffee shop. And I bring my Bible in, I get my coffee, and I sit down, I read my Bible, I read a book that is speaking into my life for personal growth in the things of God and stretching me, hopefully majority of the time. And it's funny, the opportunities that have come once in a while. I've even been tempted to put up a little sign, yes, the pastor is in, type of a thing, because people, strangers, would come up and comment on it and then ask for prayer. I even got to lead someone to Christ in the coffee shop. Oh, several people, actually. But I think it's making a choice that when you get up in the morning, God, what can I do to reflect you in what I do and where I go? And then purposely choosing to make that a part of my life. And everybody is different because of your schedules, but finding the thing that's going to bring you joy as you spend time with the Lord is awesome.
I heard a message not too long ago where the preacher made the comment that we should not schedule ourselves so busy that in case there is a need or someone needs to talk to us, that we don't have time to go be with them. And that has stuck with me. And he said we need to try and leave our calendars available time every day.
Oh, that's good.
Just in case someone calls us and say, hey, can we go for coffee? Or, hey, I really need to talk to you. We can have the time.
There was a time there that I got really frustrated with when people would say, oh, you're so busy, because the word became very negative to me. And especially because those things which I was busy in were the things of the kingdom. And so I was trying to, when somebody would say that, I'd try to redirect that and say, oh, I'm not busy, I'm just active. Or I'd come up with some other word, because it just started cringing in my spirit, which I think portion of that was, as the Lord was saying, you are too busy. You are. Cut it back so that you have time for people.
I think sometimes we have to choose between good, better, and best. It's not that the things you're doing are wrong, but maybe it's not the best thing to be doing in order to have free time on our calendars to meet the needs of God. I really liked what you said about the Gumby Award, because it's just not on the mission field, but God wants us all to be flexible.
Yes.
He wants to be able to shape us and mold us, bend us and stretch us in the ways that He wants us to grow. And it's not having a rebellious spirit like Cammie was teasing me about. It's just being willing to be available,
right,
and to go and do and say whatever He wants us to do and say.
Yes, and I've actually incorporated it in my children's department. So when I notice somebody who steps in at the last moment or shifts in an uncomfortable position to meet the needs of the situation, I'll do a Gumby Award on Facebook for them, because I think it's important that we recognize that flexibility, having a schedule, having direction, that's all good. It's needed. But when we become controlled by that, then we are actually hindering the forward movement of the kingdom of God. And so I just try to reinforce that as much as possible.
So you are current. Go ahead, Betty.
Well, I was going to see if we could change directions just
Sure.
a little bit. I know that you just got back from a trip.
Mm-hmm.
You are part of an international board of women.
Mm-hmm.
Would you talk about that just a little bit?
Women in Strategic Leadership is a peer mentoring group that meets once a year, and it's made up of approximately 50 women from around the world. It's by invitation only, and it's based on your level of ministry maturity, and they ask that you are at the same place as the other women around the table. We have one key leader. Her name is Naomi Dowdy. She's out of Singapore. She is an American, but she's lived in Singapore and done ministry around the world for 50 years almost. Amazing woman. I can't believe she does what she does. It's just mind-blowing. And it's something that she started about 10 years ago. And I think I've been doing it now for 8 to 9 years. And it's the most impactful level of interaction that I've ever had in my life. And it's hard to explain without you being there and experiencing it, how it imparts into your spirit and encourages and builds and causes you to propel forward in maturity in your own walk with the Lord. And so what we do is usually it's part of us meet in America. The other part is either Asia or Australia area. But this last year we joined together as one and met in Malaysia. And so that's where I came back from. So it's women of all different pillars of society. So you have women that are CEOs, you have women that are in pastoral positions, women that are in the arts and entertainment field. We have movie producers, we have singers, writers, all levels, international speakers. And so the mentor speaks and we interact and dialogue, and then we end up praying for each other and speaking encouragement into each other's lives. It's nothing like anything I've ever participated in, and I've participated in it a lot because of my different responsibilities over the years. And we each are supposed to be doing our own group, which I did one a number of years ago and I need to do again. And I had a lady actually tell me, she says, if I had known this is what I was going to receive, I would have paid you $1,800 to do this.
Wow.
And I only asked $100. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. I'm glad to hear that. But it does. It shifts you. We all need shifting in our spiritual walk. And this shifts you to the next level and has you confront things in your life that need to be dispersed or encouraged. And so that's basically what it is.
So over the years, you've been involved in mentoring programs, and based upon meeting with these women, what was your takeaway about mentoring? What do they have to say? Is mentoring an important facet in the lives of women today? Is it necessary? Is it needed? Is it being utilized? Do they recommend it?
Do they recommend it? You mean the people themselves? I think that right now, there's a higher need than ever before for mentoring. And I believe part of the responsibility or the reason for that is because we've had multiple generations back to back without mothers at home. I'm all for women in the workforce. I have been in the workforce. I continue to be in the workforce. But even with that shift, what has happened is we have generations being raised without a parental figure at home, whether it's a male or a female. So the things that normally would have been taught them are not present. Plus, they're feeling a void in their life and in their heart, their spirit person, of that mothering figure. And so they don't usually verbalize it the way, years ago it would have been, oh, I see you do this. Would you mentor me in this? They don't verbalize it the same way. It comes out more along the lines of, I wish I had that, or I wish I was like that. And so especially one time, I was hearing it a lot. So I established a group called Pearls, Passionately Embracing a Righteous Life. And I had anywhere from 15 to 20 women ages 18 to 38 that were a part of it and would do training with them. And so it's a very real need. I think that a lot of women are afraid, number one, to ask, but there are many, many women that are also afraid to even expose themselves to be a mentor. Because what do I do? What am I supposed to be doing? Well, you just lock in on a key area that you're good at and just love them into it. And it really depends on the type of mentoring that is needed. There's so many different types. Does that help?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a great need for that today. But getting an older woman and a younger woman together sometimes is a little bit challenging. I think the older woman has to be much more flexible in being willing to go meet the younger woman where she's at. Maybe at a coffee shop. Maybe it's at her own house. Maybe it's just sitting with her and listening while she does her laundry, and the older woman will help her fold her laundry. Or maybe it's meeting her at a park because she has her children with her, and you have to follow her around the park in order to talk with her. I think that it takes a lot more flexibility.
You have to be willing to build relationship and the cost that comes with relationship. But I also think that there's a level of the gifts of the Spirit that need to be in operation, and that is one, the gift of discernment. You know, when you're working with that person, asking the Lord, is this somebody that's truly hungry for mentoring, or are they just verbalizing this because they see something cool? And then the other thing too is how can I help in the situation? And you got to build the relationship, and then the right to answer questions, and they need to be willing to say, I want to invest in this also.
So you are currently the director of children's ministry there, excuse me, at the Baxter Road Bible Church. What led you to that position, Renee, if you could share that with us?
Well, years ago, I was doing children's ministry because I've done multiple ministries over the years, but it came totally out of nowhere. One of the pastors on staff had known me for a number of years, and he just called up and he says, "We need this position filled. We see you're available. Would you consider doing it?" And I'm like,
Gumby.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it just blew me away because it wasn't even on my radar. I mean, it just totally off my radar. And everything seemed to fall such in place that I knew that it was what the Lord wanted. And it's a huge challenge for me because things are different than when I did it before. And it had already been established, so I had to fit into a mold, which I'm not a good mold fitter.
No.
I create the molds. I don't fit into them.
Well, I'm very glad that you accepted that position.
Well, thank
because
you.
that's how we met
Yeah.
and got to know each other. And you have been such a blessing to me personally, but also to Alaska Christian Women.
Oh, thank you.
You've helped us with a lot of activities and introduced us to a lot of people.
We're connectors.
I'm glad you were being a Gumby.
Oh, thank you. I wish I could be it in real life. You know, my arms going behind my head and everything.
That makes you want to go out and find a Gumby, just for a reminder.
Can you still buy them?
You can.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you can. Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Look
That's a
and see.
hashtag.
Yeah, hashtag Gumby.
Well, we want to thank you so much, Renee, for coming into the studio today and just sharing with us. It's always a pleasure to get together and have discussion with you. You always enlighten us to just a deeper walk with the
Yes,
Lord and
she
challenge
does.
us for
Well,
sure.
thank you, Cammie.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Anything else to add there, Betty?
We need to tell them about our new Facebook page.
Go ahead. Yes.
We have a brand new Facebook page. It's called Living Well, and we want you to go like it. I don't know what else is going to show up on it. Don't know what kind of pictures. It's brand new, but we want you to like it. Eventually, all of our shows will be on there, and who knows what else.
Yes, and that you can find that on Facebook with the @ Living Well Radio.
Oh, good.
And we'd
I didn't know
appreciate-
that part.
yeah.
We might even add hashtag Gumby, like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I have a good picture you can attach to it.
Okay.
Excellent. And once again, this is another Living Well radio program, and you can find us here every Wednesday at 1 p.m. on KATB 89.3 in Anchorage, as well as KJLP 88.9 on Palmer, and you can catch us online at katb.org.